Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 28 of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your host, Jesse, and thank you so much for stopping by. Today on the show, as always, we have producer Greg across the internet and two new guests in Jordan and Scotty, or Whoredan. You're welcome. So, today we talk Robert Kraft and why he was an awful person. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Jordan and Scotty are old friends of mine, and we haven't seen each other in a very long time. So it's good to get back together with these guys and good to knock out an episode like this. Sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 28 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Yeah, the truth is out there. All right, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 28 of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your host, Jesse. Today I have two in-guest studios, two new guests. Yes, that is right. And across the internet, as always, co-host and producer Greg. Hello, Greg. Greg's not going to be hot on the mic too much tonight, but he is still here with us physically and in spirit. It's nice. So, sitting straight across from me, I have Scotty. Hello, Scotty.
Hello.
Yes, he has deepened his voice for the start of the show. I like that. And to my left is my friend, Jordan.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes.
I go by Whoredan Amigo now.
Whoredan Amigo.
From that Mexican incident.
You
or when I was in Mexico, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, Whoredan Amigo.
Yes,
You guys want to shout out social medias while we're here at the top?
Yeah. Snapchat. And Snapchat's Whoredan Amigo.
Okay.
Whoredan_Amigo.
Okay.
And Instagram, I think I made a new one, so I don't even know what it is.
Cool. We'll update.
Find me.
We'll update
I got
with that.
Huskies.
Just find him. He's got Huskies.
Mine's Josiah Scotty or Snapchat, just Scotty Too Hottie.
Scotty Too Hottie.
I didn't make that name.
I'm impressed with the fact that you were able to nail down Scotty Too Hottie.
No, I made
No, my friends took my
I'm
phone.
glad you had to say that on this show.
You didn't have to.
My friends took my phone, and I didn't actually want Snapchat. I wasn't really into the social thing or media, but they took it, and
now you're in it.
He
now I'm in
6
it.
feet
I
tall,
love it.
And he was 6 feet tall, like at 95 pounds. So
Yeah, and then I actually started working out, and things started good, and then.
Hey, and it's just a success story from there on out. Well, you guys are here, and you guys know why you're here. It's to play a serial killer game show podcast. What is the show, you ask? Each week, I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends, and sometimes friends with different names for the first time I met them. I tell them a story of an infamous serial killer, and throughout the show, you guys will chime in. And if you have stories of your own, you're welcome to tell them. They could be true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious. Lastly, if you have questions about the questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never asked questions. Are there any questions?
when you answer the question, is it like, what is Alex Trebek?
You'll see. Some are multiple choice. Some are going to be stab at the answer. Everything's a little different. At the end, there will be a winner, and you will matter to no one. So, any more questions?
No, I think Scotty's staring aimlessly at his mic.
All right. Well, then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Yes, today's killer, guys. Have you heard of Randy Kraft? Randy Kraft.
Is that the racist owner of the Clippers? Isn't it? It's Kraft.
Kraft. His last. Yeah, and the Patriots owners, Bob Kraft.
I just know the cheese craft, and put on hamburgers.
So we're all aware of some type of crafts, just not specifically
the movie Kraft.
Just not specifically Randy Kraft.
No
all right, cool.
Randy.
The movie
All
Kraft. All right, so as we always start, question number 1. Grab your notepads and your pens. In what year is Stephen Kraft born? Sorry, Randy Kraft born. Randy Stephen Kraft. There is no multiple choice on this one. Closest to the answer gets the points. 250 for the closest. What year was Randy Kraft born?
2 out of the 3 names he has are first names, so he's got to be old.
Scotty's got 1935. Jordan's got 1908. Scotty's going to get 250 points because on March 19th, 1945, only 10 years off.
I was going to say around the World War one of them. World War II, I think, right?
Some weird dude.
So
Sounds stupid as
March
shit, I'm
19th, 1945. So 250 points. Scotty starting it off right, my dude. There are going to be 12 questions total, guys, so don't worry. You'll have plenty of time to earn my love. So, Randy Stephen Kraft was born in Long Beach, California on March 19th, 1945, the fourth child and only son born to Opal Lee and Harold Herbert Kraft. Kraft's parents had moved to California from Wyoming at the outbreak of World War II. See? You were on it.
Nice.
You knew. His father worked as a production worker and his mother worked as a sewing machine operator. The Kraft family lived modestly, and Kraft's mother undertook a succession of jobs to supplement her husband's salary. Nonetheless, Opal Kraft always found time for her children, whereas in contrast, his father seldom attended any social gatherings with his wife and the children, and was later described as being distanced from his family. So Dad seems pretty checked out pretty early.
Sounds like my story. Jesus.
Yeah, mine too.
Sorry, guys.
So we've got a couple guys feeling it tonight. We're gonna see if we can't bring some emotion into the room. All right, how you guys feel about that? As a child, Randy was doted upon by his three older sisters and mother, although he was known to be quite accident prone. Head injury and a collarbone injury all before the age of 3. He broke his collarbone and he had a pretty significant head injury, which if you guys know anything about serial killers, it's one of the first things that you hear about in people that become serial killers is a significant head injury at a
I thought it was like gout. That gout was the leading driver.
That's how you find serial killers is you look for the ones with the inflamed joints.
With the limp. Yeah. Don't trust that guy.
If he's limping, he's lying. So, in 1948, the Kraft family moved from Long Beach to Midway City, California, in neighboring Orange County. As a student, Kraft was noted for his intelligence by classmates and teachers. By 1957, Kraft was deemed intelligent enough to attend accelerated classes at the 17th Street Junior High School. So, it's kind of another thing that we see a lot, too, is like above average intelligence as children, even though he's got some
High
weird...
IQs.
Yeah, high IQs indeed. He wasn't. I think his IQ was a 129, which is, I think, fairly slightly above average. It's knowing you guys, probably all three of us could go sit down and get something similar. But he was very conniving in his ways, as again most are.
What school did you go to? 21 Jump Street?
Yep, 21 Jump Street. You remembered it so well. He went to 17th Street Junior High School. Yeah. So, by adolescence, Kraft had taken a keen interest in politics, becoming a staunch Republican. Question number 2. Which political position did Kraft want in the U.S. government? This one is multiple choice. Is it A, senator, B, mayor, C, governor, or D, president of the United States? Ooh, is he shooting for the stars? POTUS?
With that 129 IQ, I know exactly what he wants to be.
All right, what do we got?
The governator.
Governator and governor. So both guys answer governor. Both are walking away empty-handed because
Senator, huh?
Robert Stephen Kraft had aspirations of becoming a U.S. senator.
Oh,
Because, they stay there for like life, I think.
See, dude?
I don't know anything.
Start
about-
going with your gut,
I
Jordan.
know.
2 times in a row, bro. All right. So nobody scores on question number 2.
winning.
Scotty's still winning 250 to nothing. I usually calculate how many total points are available. I did not tonight, so you guys are just in the dark on this one.
I come late.
There. After enrolling at Westminster High School, he and 2 close friends founded a Westminster World Affairs Club. They were very interested in bringing the, world news that you maybe don't discuss at high school every day to high school every day. So that sounds like a couple guys we really want to hang out with. Right? You guys interested so far? Randy Stephen Kraft, if I just stop right here, you guys want to kick it with him? So, at Westminster, he was again regarded as a pleasant, bright student who regularly achieved A grades. He was also known to occasionally date girls, although some of his classmates and teachers later stated they suspected Kraft was homosexual.
What?
Kraft later stated he had known from his high school days that he was indeed homosexual, although he initially kept this a secret.
The master manipulator.
The master manipulator. That's like ultimate manipulation, right? He's like, I'm just going to date a few girls here. And so that's significant or not, it's something that he battles for a long time. It wasn't the time to be a homosexual man in the world.
Not
And-
even
45,
in
yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we're in 60, 62, 63, but no
That's
better.
like,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not any
frowned
better.
upon.
So and just add something to the pile. Not that we want to feel too sorry for this piece of shit. So, yeah, on June 13th, 1963, he graduated 10th out of a class of 390 pupils. Pretty ballin'. He probably got to wear one of those sashes around,
Yeah.
Gangster. I just had to be
got
part
a
of
BJ
the...
in that thing.
Dang. I just had to be part of the letters up at the top. They just like wrote me into the design. That's what I did.
I showed up late to that, and I went in my pajamas, and they made me walk by myself.
Dang. That's so you had a solo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone looked at me and they laughed.
Yes.
was
Well,
horrible.
hey, who's winning now?
Yeah, not me.
Oh, okay.
It was their fault.
That fall, after graduation, he enrolled at Claremont Men's College in Claremont, California, where he pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. Shortly after his enrollment as a freshman at Claremont Men's College, Kraft enrolled in the Claremont Reserve Officers Training Corps and regularly attended demonstrations in favor of the Vietnam War, and in 1964 for the election of conservative presidential candidate Barry Goldwater. He was a big Barry Goldwater, which, as you guys remember, was one of our best United States presidents. Oh, wait. No. He did not become president. So in 1964, Kraft began working as a bartender at local Garden Grove cocktail lounge that catered primarily to a homosexual clientele. He was known to regularly travel to Laguna Beach and Huntington Beach to have casual sex with men. He did this so he can be a little farther from home. That was the idea. Like, he would have to go somewhere else because he didn't want to get caught being a gay man by anybody that might know him.
I like how they put like casual in there.
Yeah.
It's just it. You know?
It's just casual, man. He doesn't want to be tied down, dude. He's not really a commitment type. All right. In an apparent tentative effort to announce his sexuality to his parents, Kraft took a succession of male, quote, friends to meet his family in the years he was enrolled at Claremont. So he would just roll up for every holiday and every visit home and with his friend Jeff or whatever. It wasn't ever like, this is my partner, or this is
name's Jeff.
This is the second of 3 episodes where someone used that quote. I like that. And now I'm going to soundboard it. So it's kind of a weird spot, right? He's just bringing random dudes home and saying, "Hey, Mom, this is just my friend. But we're going to spend Thanksgiving with you." No, he's going to stay in my room. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's really
we
weird.
got it held down in here. So he could never really ever cross the bridge, but he was always standing on the precipice. In 1966, he was arrested and charged with lewd conduct after propositioning an undercover male police officer in Huntington Beach. As he had no previous criminal record, no charges were filed. He had a shift in beliefs around this time and registers as a Democrat in 1967. The same year he registered as a Democrat, Kraft became a party organizer, campaigning tirelessly and timelessly for the election of Robert Kennedy, who also lost his life, and receiving a personal letter from the senator thanking him for his efforts. By his senior year, Kraft had become quite a lazy student. He began drinking, taking drugs, and regularly attending all-night gambling and poker sessions with his friends and other students.
Thought I was gonna hate him, but now it sounds like
He's starting to get lit, though. Like it's senior year of college, and he's like,
Southern California.
Fuck this. Yeah. So the lack of commitment to his studies in his final year made it to where he would not graduate from Claremont in June of 67 as he intended. You got to walk the line. You know what I'm saying? Fuck off. But get your 2.0 and get out of there, okay? C's get degrees. We've all heard it. Just like, come on, I'm living it, Like, that's all you got to do.
Yeah.
I take, like, one semester every 3 years. That's how I'm doing school, But, like, that's how I'm rolling, okay?
If I retire and graduate the same year, I'm happy.
Yeah, there we go. As long as you got that piece of paper that says you're important. So, Kraft had to repeat his economics class, resulting in econometrics. Go with take 2. econometrics class, resulting in deferment of his graduation by 8 months. Greg's rolling over here. I got him dying. In February, I can't read good. In February 1968, Kraft graduated from Claremont Men's College with a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. So 8 months after he intended to graduate.
So he got a BA?
Yeah, he got the BA. He's holding it down in economics. No less.
Should have got a BS. Lazy ass.
So, 4 months after graduating from college, question number 3.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we're doing that.
Randy Kraft joins which branch of the military? This one, you just have to give me one.
know.
It's for 500 points.
Hold on, let me think about.
Take your time.
What's his name? Randy.
Randy Stephen Kraft will
Randy
join what branch of the
Savage.
military in 1968 for 500 points?
Not entirely sure if this is a branch,
Oh,
but this is
wait.
what I think he would
Actually,
want to do.
he would.
No
he's kind
offense.
of
Actually,
going-
I feel
yeah.
like I should. All right.
No, you know
You can
what? Let's just do this one. I'm just gonna throw this one out there.
Okay. Scotty
probably-
says the Marines. Jordan says the Coast Guard.
Oh, I was thinking Navy or something.
No one is correct because in 1968, he joined the U.S. Air Force.
Oh,
Yeah.
Never saw that one coming. He keeps us on our heels, or our toes. I mean.
I would have, if I had to guess that, I would have guessed he joined the Navy so that he could sail the seven seas. He was sent to boot camp at Texas before being stationed at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California, where he supervised the painting of test planes. What a fucking job, dude.
Yeah.
You get to check out these badass planes that aren't really like out there yet. And you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put a red stripe on this bitch. That's what I'm doing.
What would they do if they fucked up the paint?
I don't know. He would just go out there and fly it really fast till it all flew off, I think.
I think that's how we do every plane.
Yeah, I like that.
Art.
That's what's up. So get that Jackson Pollock shit going. He became a supervisor in his very first year in the military. The same year Kraft became an airman first class, he disclosed to his family that he was indeed homosexual. In a letter Kraft wrote to a friend, he described his father as having flown into a rage. Yes, into a rage. Whereas he described his mother as being more understanding, if somewhat disapproving. Kraft's family ultimately accepted the sexuality and remained in close contact with his parents and siblings, although his siblings noted he began to distance himself from the family and announced his sexuality right after announcing his sexuality to them. So, the family, the stories say they accept him, but it seems like maybe they kind of pushed him away first before being like, no, Randy, like, it's cool, come back, we do love you. And so
Maybe they're upset with like all the years of deceit.
Maybe.
Think about all the dudes they had to feed at those holidays, and then they're like, "You could have just told us and brought one guy."
right.
That's probably most pissed about.
There you go. See, Jordan's forward thinking with this shit because he's just thinking about how mad he would be.
You
that
think
he
about
just-
those old school guys? His dad probably barely had any food on the table, you know?
right?
And then he's bringing over these.
You know how many mouths I had to feed
Yeah.
before you could tell me you were homo?
That kind of
least
played into it.
On July 26, 1969, Kraft received a general discharge from the Air Force after announcing his sexuality to his superiors. This was not a don't ask, don't tell kind of time. 1969. So he says, I'm gay. And they say, oh.
That makes sense now.
You are you? Well, and the discharge was officially listed as being on medical grounds, and in response, Kraft sought legal advice from an attorney in an attempt to challenge the grounds regarding his discharge from the Air Force.
It was like that imitation game where they like electrocuted therapy and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's messed up.
The Air Force, however, refused to change the status of the discharge following the discharge. So they said, it's medical. That's what we're fucking keeping it as. What are you going to sue us? We're the Air Force. We'll fucking fly a jet into your house, dickhead. So after his military discharge, Kraft goes home. Question number 4. What job did he take when he went home? Was he A, a janitor, B, a car salesman, C, a lumberjack, or D, a bartender? This one is for 250 points, and it's 250 to nothing, Scotty, right now.
Could you
This
repeat
question
the-
is gonna-
We got
the answer?
janitor, car salesman, lumberjack, or bartender.
See, I'd be interested in like janitor where? Gas station?
I have
school
no
of all boys?
specificity as
No,
to any of his jobs.
Bartender, you can socialize a little bit. You know, that's what bartenders do.
It seems like the most
Like
obvious
to,
one.
like to get in.
I think he's tricking us right here.
Okay, I got it.
All right. Scotty says car sales. Jordan says bartender. Do you think you got tricked?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll find out.
At the end of 1969, Randy Kraft moved back into his parents' home and worked at his local watering hole as a bartender.
Oh.
Good. That was
So,
good. I should have went with my gut there.
Jordan,
Yeah.
back in the game, my dude.
I think especially since he did bartend prior to this, didn't he?
Right.
A lot of their jobs is like socializing with
Very good attention to
getting
detail.
really
dude.
good on a different level, so they get those tips. You know, tips.
Said tips. All right. So we've got 250 to 250. We are a third of the way through the questions. Boys, who's going to win this thing? In 1970, March of that year, Kraft encountered a 13-year-old Westminster youth named Joey Fancher at Huntington Beach. Fancher explained to Kraft that he had run away from home that day. In response, Kraft invited the youth to accompany him to his apartment on the promise that Fancher could live with him. Fancher agreed and accompanied Kraft to his Belmont Shore apartment, where he was promptly drugged and assaulted. Hours later, Fancher escaped from Kraft's apartment after Kraft left the youth unattended in the apartment so he could go to work. Yeah, seems
Should have called him an Uber.
reasonable. Yeah. A member of the public summoned an ambulance, having observed Fancher's drugged and disheveled condition. This kid rolls out of the house. He's like stumbling down the street, like pushing himself off cars and barely holding it together.
Oh yeah, we've all had that walk of shame.
Right. But he was 13. And
That's the kicker.
Yeah, and he had the Shit kicked out of him. Randy Kraft had really, really put the tune to him. So, but he does get out. He is safe. The ambulance comes and picks him up. He requires a stomach pump as a result of the drugs he had ingested. And at the hospital, Fancher informed police Kraft had given him drugs and beaten him. He did not disclose to either of his parents or the police that he had been sexually assaulted. As a search of Kraft's apartment was conducted with the cooperation of Kraft's roommate, however, as Fancher had confessed to police, he had taken the pills offered to him voluntarily, and the officers had conducted the search without a warrant. Therefore, anything they did find would not be admissible in court. No charges were filed. Fuck. That bums me out that poor kid got drugged and sexually assaulted
Bill
by
Cosby.
this guy. Got Bill
Oh
Cosby.
wait, actually, that's not with boys, but
But I
He
mean,
just
he
got,
did
you know,
he did the same
Call him
thing.
you gave him a drink or something.
Same
it was
same
like-
idea, right?
The Quaaludes.
And then he had no clue.
The Ludes were probably
The
running
Ludes.
strong. 1970.
That was actually one of my fantasy football team names.
The
The
Ludes.
Ludes.
So in 1971, he takes his standard intelligence test and gets a score of 129 for the IQ. He begins a relationship with Jeff Graves, who he met while trying to become a teacher at Long Beach State University. So he enrolls in Long Beach State for a short period of time, tries to become a teacher. It doesn't work out for him, but he does meet Jeff Graves. Later, after they broke up, Jeff would develop AIDS and die.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
it's a tough one.
Right. So he also took a job after he broke up with this guy. He was very depressed. He did not become a teacher. He took a job running a forklift for Arrowhead Water. So this BA has taken him far in life, as we can tell. So shit is about to get really wild. We'll take a quick break right here, and we'll come back and get into some murders. All right, well, welcome back, everybody, to episode 28. I am still here, still across the internet, producer Greg. Sitting across from me directly is Scotty, and to the left is Jordan. We're having a good time on episode 28. You guys, we're going to start this one off right. Question number 5. Between 1971 and 1983, Kraft is believed to have killed a total of how many victims?
1970. Wait.
12 years total.
12 years.
12 years. Over the 12 years,
Jeez.
how many will he kill? Now, I'm giving this information to both of you. Sometimes serial killers have something called a cooling off period. They can last like 10 years sometimes. So the time period is there. I may have just given you that as a curveball. I don't know. What I do, guys.
It has to get, you know.
So it's a random stab. The closest to the answer this time is going to get 250 points.
Like, I'm trying to just debate, like, how big of a piece of shit this guy is. Like, if he hit a triple-double,
or how
like...
much he needs to, like, you know, let loose and get off or something. Or I don't know.
Russell Wilson had a lot of triple...
Yeah, I'm a
Russell
Thunder
Westbrook.
fan, so
Yeah,
I'm about that life.
He used to have a lot of triple-doubles last year. So, I mean, if this guy's trying to drop dimes like that...
I would say.
Maybe he's knocking out, like...
All right, I got it.
So just put down the amount of triple doubles that Russ Westbrook had.
Yeah, I mean, that's 12 years.
Oh wait, man, now I have to do. Let's scribble this one out.
Scotty says 13. Jordan says 16.
16.
All right.
Those are
So
in that issue
in
number.
between 1971 and 1983, Randy Stephen Kraft is believed to have killed a total of 67 victims.
I told you,
He's a piece of
Russell
shit.
Westbrook, bro.
Yeah. You went away from your gut again,
Kevin,
dude.
Wow.
Kevin Durant left his team a long time ago. And
Wow.
So that's 250 for Jordan. He takes his first lead of the game, up
Wow.
500 to 250. So
I gave
Randy
this guy a
Stephen
whole lot of
Kraft is
credit.
believed to have killed 67 people between 1971 and 1983.
how
Now,
do you do that?
I will, with that, I will give you this.
That's sick.
I do not cover all 67 murders. I pick some of the early ones, I pick some of the more graphic ones, and I pick the quote-unquote important ones. I couldn't. We would be here for 7 hours because literally there's information about all of them, and we could go into
That's
detail about all of
crazy.
them. We'll try to put out a little more information on Instagram and Facebook and the website after this. But, you know, we can't hit everyone.
I haven't gone to the grocery store 67 times in 12 years.
So all of Kraft's suspected victims were males between the age of 13 and 35. Dude, we are all in the demographic. What's up? I'm feeling pretty sexy right now. The majority of whom were in their late teens and mid-20s. Fuck!
He does
Kraft,
not discriminate.
Man.
Kraft was charged with and convicted of... I think that might be an answer for later, so I'm glad
they
I didn't
caught
read
his
that
ass?
out loud. Oh, yeah. So he's convicted of some of, but not all of these homicides, all of which occurred between 72 and 83. Many of Kraft's victims had been enlisted in the Marines. This was kind of a big deal. I think of his 67 suspected, something like 29 of them were Marines.
Oh jeez.
Right. So,
I had Marines in there. You know. I was
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
Marines
So you're
earlier.
kind of on the right path too. Most of his victims' bodies bore evidence of high levels of both alcohol and tranquilizers in their blood systems, indicating that they had been rendered unconscious before being abused and murdered in most cases.
They were trying to party.
That's more than Bill Cosby.
Yes. Yes. Kraft's victims were typically lured into his vehicle with an offer of a lift or alcohol. Inside Kraft's vehicle, the victims would be plied with alcohol and other drugs, like Valium was a big favorite of his. They were then bound, tortured, and sexually abused before they were casually killed by either strangulation, asphyxiation, or bludgeoning.
It kind of reminds me of.
I would
Dexter,
take door number
except for-
1. Fuck a bludgeoning.
Yeah. So it's only gonna get way more gnarly and way more.
Or like,
real
give me
from
some more
here.
tranquilizers
It's
or
like
something.
the Strangler's is like Dexter, except for
Yeah.
he doesn't like rape them. He just
Just kills them. And usually they're not like innocent 13-year-old boys who like ran away from home.
No, this is.
Yeah.
That's why
It's
they
not
that's
justice.
why they invented the DARE program.
Yeah.
Because
So, although some victims had also ingested fatal doses of pharmaceuticals, at least one victim was also stabbed to death. So we didn't even, if we had gone one more line, we could have figured out that, yeah, some of them did get tranquilized to death. One was stabbed to death. The victims were often discarded, usually, though not exclusively, alongside or close to various freeways in Southern California. Photographic evidence found at Kraft's home indicates several of his victims were driven to his house before their murder. Many of Kraft's victims were burned with car cigarette lighter, usually around the genitals, chest, and face. Several victims were found with extensive blunt force trauma to the face and head. In several instances, foreign objects were found inserted into the victim's anus, specifically socks. So apparently, Kraft knew from his military service that bodies purge when they die. unless you stuff the orifices. So he would plug the nose, the throat, and the anus so that the bodies didn't purge while he was driving them home.
My first thought was he was trying to take his foot out, and
Yeah.
his sock got
That's
in there.
like
It reminds me of that South Park episode where they're like, when you die, you shit your pants, and then everybody that dies in that episode shits all over the place. So
I hope I don't go out like that.
not to make
like
too
Q
not to
came in
make
there.
too light of the situation.
Elvis totally nailed it, though. That's why he died on the can. Well, that's why he quote unquote died on the can.
Yeah, Greg's got
At least
some
you
other
get to go with
theories
some
about
dignity.
that, I'm sure.
Dang, I guess I got to go in like water then.
Yeah. The majority of Kraft's murders were committed in California, although some victims have been killed in Oregon, with 2 further known victims being murdered in Michigan in December of 1982. On October 5th, 1971, police found the nude body of 30-year-old Long Beach resident named Wayne Duquette, discarded close to the Ortega Highway. Duquette, a bartender at a gay bar named The Stables, had last been seen alive on September 20th, 1971. Putrefaction had erased any signs of foul play upon the body, and the cause of death was listed as acute alcohol poisoning due to a high alcohol content.
Pussy.
Now that there are bodies, the killer is going to receive a nickname. I'm going to give you 5 options. Choose 2. 2 of them are correct, and they're worth 250 points each. So you can get a potential of 500 correct, or 500 points if you get both of these. So, was he A, the homo hater?
Oh, yeah.
B, the scorecard killer? C, without a trace killer? D, the freeway killer? Or E, the young man prowler?
Who made up these names?
Well, 2 of them by the media, 3 of them by me.
Okay. Could you repeat those again?
Yeah, the homo hater, the scorecard killer, without a trace killer, freeway killer, or the young man prowler.
Dang it, I forgot the rest of them, so I have to go like...
Let's
the
homo
first one.
hater,
Nope, yeah, that's the
scorecard
one.
killer, without a trace killer, freeway killer, and young man prowler.
I'm going to give Scotty a chance here, so...
We got freeway and homo hater and young man prowler without a trace. Jordan gets 1.
Boom.
He was known as the scorecard killer and the freeway killer.
There we go.
So Jordan will get 250 points on this and extend his lead. He has answered correctly now 3 questions in a row.
You smell that? I smell comeback.
You've been ahead for longer than you were behind.
And Randy would like that.
Randy would love that, I feel like. So, he is known, again, as the scorecard killer and the freeway killer. The scorecard killer is because later, when they find him, they're going to find a journal entry. That's 1 page, and it is very cryptic as to what it is exactly, but it has 67 entries on it, and they're all essentially like one word. It's almost as if he wrote down a little reminder and memento of every killing he did on 1 single page. So, the first entry upon Kraft's personal journal, referred to as his scorecard, reads, quote unquote, stable. And that is where our friend Wayne Duquette worked, was at the stable bar. 15 months after the murder of Duquette, Kraft killed a 20-year-old Marine named Edward Moore. Moore was seen alive leaving the barracks at Camp Pendleton on December 24th, 1972, and his body was found beside the 405 freeway in Seal Beach during the early morning hours of December 26th, 2 days later. Abrasions on Moore's body indicated that he had been discarded from a moving vehicle. An autopsy revealed Moore had been bound about the wrists and ankles, then beaten with a blunt instrument about the face before being garroted. You guys familiar with the
What
garrote?
is garroted?
No.
Garrote, probably most famous is John Wayne Gacy, but it's essentially like a piece of wood that you insert into a rope around someone's neck and you turn. If I'm not mistaken, that's the garrote. If it's not that, it's the 2-handle like piano wire. Greg, could you look up garrote for me just to double check that?
Did
On
you see the movie The
But I'm
Counselor
almost positive it's the 2-handled piano wire.
Okay.
with Michael Fassbender?
I did.
At
Yeah.
the end, they put that something like that. It was like a, I don't know, it had some type of mechanism in it. Just tightened it slowly,
Yep,
and it just
that's-
went. Yeah,
So that was what
Wire
that was.
cord or apparatus used to
Yeah.
strangle someone.
What's that?
A A wire cord or apparatus used to strangle someone.
So it really doesn't matter how they strangle as long as it's a cord. It's a
Just
garrote.
give a fancy name to strangle someone.
Yeah. Yep.
I always
a
thought
little
of The Godfather when he sits down in the car and he comes up from the back seat.
Yep.
Say hello
point,
to
good
my
point.
little friend.
That was actually Scarface, but
My bad.
His body
Oh,
his body also bore evidence of numerous bite marks, and a sock had been forced into his rectum. 6 weeks after the murder of Edward Moore, the body of an unidentified youth estimated to be around 17 to 25 years old was found alongside the Terminal Island Freeway in Los Angeles. This victim had been strangled by a ligature and also had a sock placed in his rectum. 2 months later, on April 9th, the body of 17-year-old Kevin Bailey was found beside a road in Huntington Beach. On July 28th, a further 2 victims had been murdered. An unidentified youth whose dismembered body was found on April 22nd, and a 20-year-old named Ron Weeb, whose strangled body was discarded beside an on-ramp to the 405 freeway on July 30th, 2 days after he disappeared.
bro, how do you just kick people out on the freeway?
That was his. It kind of seems a little bit of his MO, just like
dropping bodies, like
That
pushing
and
them out the
rectums.
passenger door.
That and
That's
buttholes and
brother. I can't even like fucking spit out the window without yanking the fucking steering wheel over to the left. I don't get how this guy was like opening the door and pushing out a lifeless body. It's unbelievable.
Were they riding in the front seat?
That's my guess.
Did he pull over?
A lot of them showed signs that they were just pushed out. Like
though?
posthumously, they can see that they got the shit beat out of them by the road and by the tumbling.
Man.
So
I have my phone in my lap. If it falls down by my feet, I almost die every time. I was thinking, like, because you're just
every single time.
kicking. That's crazy.
Welt marks on Weeby's wrists and ankles suggested he had been bound and suspended from a device before his murder. Kraft is only known to have killed once more in 1973. The victim was a 23-year-old bisexual art student named Vincent Cruz Mestas, whose body was found in the San Bernardino Mountains on December 29th. As had been the case with several previous victims, one of the victim's socks had been forced into his rectum. Mestas' hand had also been severed from his body and were never found. So his hand's gone, not finding those babies. By November 1974, a further 5 victims had been found beside or close to mass transportation in Southern California, 3 of which had been conclusively linked to the same killer. 1975, on January 3rd, Kraft abducted and murdered a 17-year-old high school student named John Liris. 2 weeks after Liris's murder, on January 17th, the body of 21-year-old named Craig Jonitis was found discarded in the parking lot of the Golden Sails Hotel near the PCH. Jonitis had been strangled to death with a length of string, possibly a shoelace. There was a small investigation in January of 75, a total of 14 victims whose bodies had been discovered and discarded across 4 separate counties with the previous 3 years had been linked to the same killer. All the
This
victims...
guy's traveling, man.
Not too far, though. Like, really all Orange and L.A. County.
How are you driving to there's the hotel parking lot. Peace. You know?
Yeah, I think that's
why he's driving.
exactly it. All of the victims had been Caucasian males with similar physical characteristics. On January 24th, homicide investigators from several jurisdictions in Southern California convened in Orange County to discuss progress in the hunt for the unknown killer. This is actually kind of huge for early 70s. This is not a time when police forces worked together.
When was the Zodiac?
It's late 70s. So this is a time where like murders are not getting solved for this very reason, that there's not like a national database where this information can be reached at any point.
Makes sense.
An FBI profile of the killer was read to investigators, describing the individual as a methodical, organized lust killer of above average intelligence who exhibited an indifference to the interests and welfare of society. Some investigators believed the murders to be the work of more than one individual, one or more of whom had a military background. They believed the military background because of the prevention of body purging. Because, we mentioned the rectum.
And the butthole.
Yeah, we mentioned the White Sox and the beehole. But, there was also, like we said, nostrils, stuffed clothes, and things shoved down the throat. That just doesn't read as creepy as the White Sox and the beehole. So, at this stage, investigators have 0 solid suspects. On the evening of March 29th, 1975, Kraft lured 2 youths named Keith Crotwell and Kent May from Long Beach parking lots into his car. The youths were given beer and Valium as Kraft drove in an apparently random, directionless manner around Belmont Shore and Seal Beach. May later recalled feeling catatonic as a result of the Valium and alcohol he had ingested before he passed out. In the Long Beach parking lot where Crotwell and May had last been seen, two friends of the youths observed them in a very distinctive car. What car was Kraft driving? Ooh. Was it a Camaro, a Charger, a Roadrunner, or a Mustang? Yeah. Jordan's got Roadrunner.
That's what I got too.
Scotty's got Roadrunner.
He's a bartender, you know.
He's running those roads, man. It's the freeway.
The car the friends of the boys will see is a black and white Ford Mustang. Rapidly enter and draw to a halt.
What? He
the stables.
The
stables.
Yeah. But he's attracting, trying to get his...
the Mustang brings in the young men.
Carry on.
So they see the black and white Ford Mustang rapidly enter and draw to a halt before the driver leaned across, opened the passenger door, and pushed the unconscious but otherwise unharmed Kent May from the rear seat onto the ground of the parking lot. The driver then sped away from the scene. As he did so, the friends of Crotwell and May noted Crotwell slumped against the unknown driver's shoulder. On May 8th, the skull of Keith Crotwell was found in a jetty close to the Long Beach Marina. The remainder of his body was found 6 months later. Upon hearing the news of the discovery of the skull, the two youths had observed the Ford Mustang entering the parking lot and discarding May onto the ground, suspecting Crotwell's murderer to have been a patron of the Belmont Shore gay bar, scoured the neighborhood for a distinctive Ford Mustang that they had clearly observed on that day. So what a couple of badasses that we think this fucking guy killed our friend. Let's go find this car. So they think they have an idea, and they totally do. The vehicle is less than 1 mile from their home. The youths noted the license plate number and relayed the information to police. The police run the registration, and the vehicle was traced back to Randy Stephen Kraft. The Long Beach police questioned Kraft about Crotwell's abduction and murder on May 19th, 1975. Initially, Kraft denied having ever met either Crotwell or May, and the police, initially skeptical of Kraft's denial, summoned him to the police station for further questioning.
And then they saw his white socks, and they're like, oh, fuck. They're mismatched because you kept sticking one.
Why is the elastic gone on that one? But you're still wearing it. At the Long Beach police station, Kraft admitted that on or around March 29th, he had encountered two youths in the Long Beach parking lot in question and had persuaded them to drink alcohol and consume Valium with him as he drove.
How would you ask someone that?
Hey, what's up, dude? Want some brews and some V?
Valium.
Hop in, bruh.
Value.
He claimed to have returned May to the parking lot and then to have driven off with Crotwell to a side road close to the El Toro off-ramp, where this car subsequently became embedded upon an embankment. This motherfucker needs to learn how to drive. Valium and booze ain't the way to do it, you guys. Buzz driving is drunk driving. He claimed to have walked alone to a gas station to call a tow truck to winch his vehicle from the embankment as Crotwell remained with his vehicle.
Stupid.
Upon returning to his vehicle, Kraft claimed Crotwell had disappeared. Although Kraft's roommate was able to verify to detectives that Kraft had phoned him on the date of Crotwell's disappearance, claiming his vehicle was stuck on an embankment.
This dude had a roommate?
Yeah. He helped in the first part of the investigation as well. Detectives remain unconvinced of Kraft's overall version of events. The following week, two detectives attempted to file homicide charges against Kraft. However, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office dismissed the detectives' request, citing the coroner's conclusion from the autopsy of the remains thus far found, solely the youth's skull, that had died of an accidental drowning. So they found his skull, and somehow they can...
Yeah.
discern from that he had died of drowning. Perhaps because Kraft had been questioned as a suspect in Crotwell's murder and because of the additional turmoil in his personal life in the summer of 1975. He is not known to have killed again until December 31st when he abducted 22-year-old Mark Hall in San Juan Capistrano.
How old is this man? Is he how old is he?
So in 75, he was born in 45. He's 30.
Oh, so he's
my age.
Uh-oh.
Is he a big guy? Because I feel like he's just fucking up a lot of dudes.
He's not, but that's why he went for 15 to 25. 15, even maybe 18, you're not at your physical prime. Like, you're strong and you're a stout young man. 25, I could definitely see, putting up probably one of the better fights you're ever going to in your life. Do you think he'd go after you? No, I am not attractive enough. 100%.
But the age, though.
Little too much meat on the bones. Even at 18 through 25, I was probably running a little thick for Randy Kraft. So
He
But you
likes
got
the
that
age,
that thigh deodorant, so
yeah, exactly.
maybe.
That's what's up. You know, Jordan knows. The murder of Mark Hall, who we picked up in San Juan Capistrano. This murder is later described by prosecutors as, quote, the worst of all of the known murders committed by Kraft, end quote. Yeah, it gets worse.
shoe in the butt.
Yeah. The man was driven to a remote canyon where he was bound to a tree. The autopsy report listed the cause of death as being asphyxiation caused by leaves and earth found lodged deep in the youth's trachea. The autopsy also revealed Hall had been sodomized, with his severed genitals then inserted into his rectum. So after
There
he
it
finished
goes
sodomizing
again.
him, he puts his...
Another
puts his-
rectum.
Yeah. The youth's
He
chest...
ran out of socks, man.
The youth's chest, scrotum, nose, and cheeks had been burned with an automobile cigarette lighter, with his eyes being destroyed by the same object. In addition, Hall's legs bore numerous incisions which had been inflicted with a broken bottle. Forensic experts were able to deduce that Hall had been alive throughout much of the ordeal. In this time, there is a lull of killing, and that is thought to be a direct effect of the fact that Kraft is in a serious relationship with a man named Jeff Seelig. There are a few killings in between here, and Kraft is not known to be responsible for anything that really happens. Jeff Seelig may have calmed him down a little. So let's take our last break right here, roll through the end of the show, and come back, or I'll kill you. Hey guys, if you're ever interested in how you could support the show, we just wanted to let you know that patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast is the way to do it. If you feel like the show deserves anything and any right, if you've ever enjoyed it for even a second, you can give as little as $1 a month to help the wheels keep on turning. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the support in advance. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. Thank you. All right, so welcome back to episode 28, guys. Scotty, Jordan, and Greg all still here. Scotty is going to chill with us till the end. Jordan is going to have to, unfortunately, step away in just a few minutes. He does have a lead. We're going to give him zeros on everything that he misses, and he is confident that Scotty's not going to make the comeback.
I haven't been following along, so if you want, I can tag in.
So we'll let. How about this, Greg? I'm going to let you tag in on the last 4 as an independent and try to win on your own, because Scotty only has 250. So you're going to be joining him on these final 4 or 5 questions, 0 to 250. Jordan,
What's Jordan have?
750.
Can I win it all?
Yes, you can.
Yes,
It is possible.
I'm in.
All right.
In.
So after everything I told you, he's also going to have 7 more kills that we're not going to dive into in 1978. He is not known to have killed again until June 16th of 1979 when he abducted a 20-year-old Marine named Donald Crissell. His body was thrown from a moving vehicle onto the 405 freeway 2 months later on August 29th. Another one thrown out of the car. The dismembered body of an unidentified youth estimated to be aged between 18 and 30 was found placed in 2 trash bags behind a Union 76 gas station in Long Beach. The entry upon Kraft's scorecard simply reading 76 is believed to refer to this victim. In the summer of 1980, Kraft traveled to the neighboring state of Oregon as a part of his contractual assignment delegated to him by his employers. Throughout the duration of his employment, Kraft decided to reside in a town close to Portland. Before he returned to California in August, he is believed to have claimed a further 2 victims, both of whom were listed upon the scorecard with cryptic references, including the word Portland. The following day, Kraft is believed to have killed a man estimated to be aged between 35 and 45, whose body was found beside a freeway in the city of Woodburn. This victim, listed as Portland Elk on Kraft's scorecard, had ingested a toxic level of Valium and Tylenol before he was strangled to death with a ligature. What a way to go, fucking Tylenol.
Valium.
August 1980, on September 3rd, 1980, September 3rd, 1980, 1 month after his return to California from Oregon, the bound body of a 19-year-old Marine named Robert Loggins was found discarded in a trash bag located close to the El Toro Marine Air Base. On April 10th, 81, the body of a 17-year-old named Michael Cluck was found beside the Interstate 5 freeway close to the community of Goshen, Oregon. 4 months after the murder of Michael Cluck, on August 20th, 1981, the partially clothed body of 17-year-old prostitute named Christopher Allen Williams was found at the San Bernardino Mountains. By early 1982, the relationship between Kraft and Selig had become marred by frequent quarreling and episodes of temporary separation. So he's just out straight serial killing. He took a break. He didn't stop when he first starts dating Jeff. And he's deep in it now. So part of me is like, how does this guy not know? And then part of me is like, this guy for sure fucking knew, right? So they're quarreling, and part of the solution they come up with is to start to do weekly counseling sessions in Huntington Beach. These sessions began on June 22nd, 1982.
Is there like doctor-patient confidentiality?
Yeah, there's pretty much nothing that came out of this that I found any information about.
But you can't, huh?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Fucked up.
Yeah. On July 29th, 1982, a Caltrans employee found the decaying body of a 14-year-old Pittsburgh, California youth named Raymond Davis discarded alongside the Rampart Boulevard off-ramp. The entry upon Kraft's scorecard reading "dog" is believed to refer to Davis. Just 40 feet from the body of Davis, the same Caltrans crew also found the body of 16-year-old Robert Avila. Avila was been missing since July 21st, although his body was also markedly decomposed. Kraft is not known to have killed again until November 1st, 1982, when he abducted and murdered 24-year-old Modesto man named Arne Mikael Lane. What was said to be the last thing Lane was seen doing? Question number 9. Was it A, hitchhiking, B, pumping gas, C, working on his car on the side of the road, or D, selling encyclopedias door to door? Greg, this is you too. You're in on it now.
In Modesto?
No, that was his last victim, was in Modesto. You know what? Let's see.
Oh, man. You know what?
His last victim was from Modesto.
Yes, from Modesto. A Modesto man named Arne Mikael Lane. Was he hitchhiking, pumping gas, working on his car on the side of the road, selling encyclopedias door to door? Let me know when you guys got your answer so I can let Greg give his verbal answer.
Got it.
Dang.
All right, you guys
Locked
in?
in.
Greg, what you got?
I'm going to go with this one.
Final answer.
I'm going to say hitchhiking.
Greg's got hitchhiking.
Working on a car.
All right, working on a car.
Working on a car.
All right, 2 working on a cars and hitchhiking, and Greg has already tied up Scotty at 250 with hitchhiking.
I was going to change that.
Gregory knows the answers.
Greg?
This is rigged.
Greg, I will not lie to you, does have the outline, but I will not lie to you as well. When I look at the top, Greg's name is not up there, so as a producer, he has not opened it yet.
Oh, Greg. Okay. We just opened up a bottle.
So, you know,
I've been doing other producer shit.
if we're getting really detailed. So Greg is correct and ties up Scotty on this one at 250. The last thing the Modesto man named Arne Mikael Lane was doing was hitchhiking. So he was last seen hitchhiking towards Orange County in search of work. His body was not found until January of 1984. He was discarded on a hillside close to the town of Ramona. 8 more murders will happen between now and the final murder, which takes place on May 14th, 1983. So we're talking November of 82 to May of 83. I'm just going to skip over 8 murders right now.
That is still, he
Yeah.
is like Russell Westbrook
The
pace right now.
rectums. And,
Just berserker
Yeah.
to the max. So this is actually very interesting to me because one of my favorite capture stories is the Richard Ramirez one. Scotty, did you happen to finish that episode, the Richard Ramirez?
is this guy?
How he got captured?
I'm not-
Essentially, a mob chased him down the street. They recognized
I
him,
didn't finish
and they chased him down the street, and they beat the shit out of him until the cops got there. And when the cops rolled up, Richard Ramirez said, like, I'm the Night Stalker, like, save me.
Oh,
So it's by far one of my favorite capture stories. This one right here is a pretty good one as well. So at 1:10 a.m. on May 14th, 1983, 2 California Highway Patrol officers observed a Toyota Celica driving erratically on the I-5 freeway in the Orange County community of Mission Viejo.
Oh, yeah. If there's a Toyota Celica in Mission Viejo, there's something wrong going on.
It's
right
going
there.
down. Observing the vehicle perform an illegal lane change, the officers suspected the driver was drunk and signaled for the vehicle to stop. The driver slowed the vehicle to a halt and exited the car, discarding the contents of a beer bottle onto the pavement as he did so. Another thing I saw in the documentary was the cop said that he really seemed to know what he was doing, because when he pulled over to the side, he pulled over where there was a retaining wall, and he parked the car so close to the retaining wall that no one could squeeze in over on that passenger side, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever been pulled over on the highway. The cop never comes to your driver's side door. They're not risking that shit. They're going over to the passenger side. So he's already like kind of ahead of the game. So right when they pull him over, he stands up. That's how the beer bottle spills. He stands up and gets out of the car, and a beer bottle spills onto the ground. And they don't think he's real aggressive yet. They haven't like pulled guns on him or anything. But Officer Michael Sterling says that the individual who identified himself as Randy Kraft, he takes him and sets him at the front of the patrol car and observed that his jeans were unbuttoned. Sterling had Kraft perform a sobriety test, which he failed. Sterling arrested Kraft for driving while intoxicated. During this time, Sterling's partner, Sergeant Michael Howard, approached the Celica and observed a young man slumped with his eyes closed in the vehicle passenger seat, partially covered by a jacket with empty beer bottles strewn about his feet. Howard attempted to wake the man. Receiving no response to his verbal efforts, Howard attempted to rouse the man by shaking his arm, only to note the individual had a very low body temperature. Upon feeling for a pulse, Howard noted that the man was in fact dead. A ligature mark visibly encircled the youth's neck. Lifting the jacket from the deceased youth's lap, Howard noted the victim's jeans had been opened to expose the genitalia, and the boxers had been placed under it to lift them up and out. All right, so Howard feels for the pulse. He's dead, lifts the jacket. The man has his pants down. The boxers have been placed kind of, let's call it under the sack. We've all done it. We've taken a piss. You know, you pull out the important. Yeah. And so that's what he has done. It's just kind of sitting up and easy access for Kraft. So in addition to this, the youth's hands had been bound with shoelace, and his wrists bore evidence of welt marks from this. Later identified as Terry Lee Gambrell, a 25-year-old Marine stationed at El Toro Air Base, the victim had been strangled to death. Kraft was initially charged with driving under the influence of alcohol and held in custody as detectives conducted a thorough search of his vehicle. Upon the rear seat of the car, investigators found a belt, the width of which matched the bruising around Gambrell's neck. Other incriminating evidence found included alcohol, tranquilizers, various prescription drugs, and stimulants. The passenger seat carpet of the vehicle was heavily bloodstained. However, Gambrell had no open wounds. So the seat and carpet are just soaked in down and deep, not on the surface. They cut it and they can see soaked in it. And this guy, Gambrell, who's in the seat, has no cuts.
So he's riding sloppy.
He's riding he's riding surface clean. On the clean, it looks, or on the surface, it looks good. But
Celica,
riding dirty.
trying to blend in, but he's riding dirty.
Very dirty, yes. So the upholstery was removed for forensic analysis. The results of the analysis confirmed the blood was indeed human. Beneath the carpet in the front, so it says carpet, but I think it actually means like just the floor mat. Under the floor mat, they find an envelope containing over 50 photographs of young men in pornographic poses. Many of the subjects in the pictures appeared either asleep or dead. Inside the trunk of Kraft's vehicles, investigators found a ring binder containing a handwritten list of coded notations. A search of Kraft's home revealed further incriminating evidence, including clothes and personal possessions of numerous young men who had been murdered over the last decade. Fibers taken from a rug matched those found upon victim Scott Hughes. In addition, the couch in Kraft's living room was identified as being the one in the photographs found in his car. Talk about the scorecard a little bit. Greg sent us over a list. We'll definitely post a link to this on the Facebook so you guys can check this shit out and the breakdown of it. But the coded list of 67 neatly printed items and phrases found in Kraft's car is believed to refer to each of Kraft's victims. Many entries appear innocuous, but each is believed to refer to a specific murder victim or double murder. Really quickly, I'll just run down a few for you. So 11 says Wilmington, LB Marina, Pier 2, Diabetic, Skates, Portland, Navy White, User, Parking Lot, Deodorant, Dog, Teen Trucker, Iowa, 7th Street. So these are kind of, these are the clues that we're working with.
The diabetic was just like, hey, bro, I got some beer and some insulin.
Yeah, I got you right here. Climb up in this car, my dude.
Feeling shaky,
we'll get you straight. Yeah.
Feeling shaky, homie. Several entries clearly refer to victims' names. For example, the entry reading EDM refers to the initials of victim Edward Daniel Moore, whereas Vince M refers to Vincent Mestas. That wasn't a very creative one, was it? In other instances, entries indicate torture or mutilation inflicted upon victims' bodies and or places they were last seen. This is actually weird and coincidental because the last episode I did, a guy took Robert Burdell took very detailed notes on all of his crimes and tortures. So, the entry Marine Head BP, for example, is believed to refer to a victim, Mark Mash, a Marine found decapitated, having last been seen hitchhiking towards Buena Park. Other entries simply hark towards body dump locations. The entry Golden Sails, for example, refers to the fact that body of Craig Jonitis was found in the parking lot of the Golden Sails Hotel. The list also contains entries indicating a minimum of 4 double murders, GR2, victims Dennis Alt and Christopher Schoenborn, last seen in Grand Rapids, 2-in-1 Beach, victims Jeffrey Nelson and Roger Duvall, 2-in-1 Hitch, and 2-in-1 MV to PL. Investigators contend that two victims of whose murders Kraft was convicted, Eric Church and Terry Gambrell, are not listed on Kraft's scorecard. However, since the list is in code, the possibility exists that victim Eric Church in particular is actually included in the scorecard as an entry which investigators cannot recognize as referring to him. So, with this, they've got him. A lot of evidence, like mounting. The trial begins. On September 26, 1988, in Orange County, before Judge Donald McCartan. Question number 10, everybody. How many witnesses will be used by the prosecution during the duration of the trial? The closest guess is going to get 250 points. How many witnesses are going to go up on the stand for the prosecution? All right, Jordan at 250, Scotty at 250, Greg at 250.
Wait, hold on. Pump your brakes.
Do we have answers?
Oh,
What do we got?
I'm at 750, aren't I?
Yeah, did I not say that?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Where are we at? Down here?
Yep. Prime time.
Cool.
All right, I'm just gonna do that one
Where are we at?
right here.
Okay. All right, Greg, what do you got?
17.
11.
Greg said 11. Jordan said, again, what was it?
21.
21 and 9, right?
8.
8. So the prosecution during the whole trial uses 160 witnesses. Jordan is going to snag another 250. Just putting a little secure on that, huh, buddy, before you have to get out of here.
Yep.
So with 2 questions remaining, Jordan at 1,000. Scotty at 250, Greg at 250. I believe you still can do it, Greg, but that definitely
Yep.
that definitely put it a little further out of reach than it was initially. So, again, 160 witnesses and over 1,000 exhibits of evidence are introduced to the trial.
Wow.
This evidence pointing towards Kraft's guilt included physical evidence such as bloodstains and hair and fiber evidence found at Kraft's Long Beach residence and in his vehicle. Fingerprints found upon glass shards recovered from the scene of the murders of Mark Hall. The negatives and photographs of young men identified as murder victims found hidden inside Kraft's vehicle, which depicted the youths either dead, drugged, or asleep, and which background imagery revealed to have been taken at Kraft's home, or as the victims were sat inside Kraft's Toyota. In addition to the belt used to strangle Terry Gambrell and the prescription drugs and buck knife found in a vehicle. Other evidence introduced included work of travel records and gasoline receipts, which placed Kraft in particular locations where victims had been found, abducted or discarded, and the numerous personal possessions of various murder victims found in Kraft's possession following his arrest. Kraft's defense was one of the alibis and alternate suspects. So he's saying, there was other people. There's for sure other people, and look, I got excuses for everywhere I was. It's tough to say that that's true. So his attorneys dismissed as much of the evidence produced as being circumstantial and attempted to portray Kraft as an articulate, hardworking, and upstanding member of the community. They did not refute that the 16 youths whose murder their client was tried for, yet they argued that they were the victims of someone, but not Randy Kraft. The defense also stated that several of the 16 victims had initially been believed by investigators to have been killed by one of the 2 other serial killers, William Bonin and Patrick Kearney, who we will cover in future episode, and who also coincidentally are also nicknamed the Freeway Killers. They argued that there was no concrete evidence and Kraft had killed any of the victims. The trial lasted a total of 13 months and would prove to be the most expensive trial in Orange County history, to this day, as far as I understand. On April 29th, 1989, each side opened their closing arguments, which lasted a total of 3 days. The prosecution again listing all of the physical and circumstantial evidence pointing to Kraft's guilt. The defense arguing as to the circumstantial case put forward by the prosecution that all the murders were linked and accusing the prosecution of glossing over the truth. Following the closing arguments, the jury deliberated for a total of 11 days before reaching their verdict. Of the 16 murders he is being accused of, question number 11, how many will Randy be charged with? He's being accused of 16 in this trial, and they're going to charge him with an amount of that. How many of the 16? Closest going to get 250 here.
32.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I was like, wait. Jordan's got his answer.
Molly Ringwald.
All right. Greg, what's your answer?
16.
Greg says all 16. Jordan also says all 16. Scotty says 11.
I feel like you got away with some stuff, you know.
Scotty, you're wrong. He gets charged with 16
Did you
of
not
the
hear
16
of the
murders.
100 plus witnesses
okay.
and
That makes sense.
1,000 articles of evidence?
So, Greg, you have taken a lead over Scotty, 500 to 250. Jordan has officially, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, won this thing as he's out the door. What a boss. On May 12th, 1989, the jury found Kraft guilty of 16 counts of murder, 1 count of sodomy, and 1 count of emasculation. He cut some dicks off. And 1 additional count of sodomy in relation to victim Roger Duvall, he was found not guilty of. So there was something he was found not guilty of. 1 count of sodomy.
All right.
So you weren't completely wrong, just kind of wrong. On June 5th, 1989, the same jury reconvened to hear further testimony from the prosecution and defense as to the penalty for Kraft. This phase of Kraft's trial would last until August, from June to August, just to figure out what the penalty would be. And it was at this point at which the prosecution introduced evidence of several additional homicides committed in both Oregon and Michigan, which they were certain Kraft had also committed, and for which he had not been tried in Orange County. The defense dismissed the prosecution's assertions as being, quote, highly speculative, and introduced testimony relating to a PET scan conducted on Kraft, which they asserted revealed abnormalities in the frontal lobes of Kraft's brain, therefore reducing his ability to control both his emotions and impulse.
Of course.
The prosecution rebuffed his testimony by stating to the jury that there's nothing wrong with Mr. Kraft's mind other than that he likes killing for sexual satisfaction, adding the fact that his family and friends had found it difficult to believe he had committed any murder simply showed, quote, what a good salesman he is. Last question of the day. It doesn't matter for much, but let's get it anyway. Guys, what's the penalty? Is it life in prison or death? You don't have to write it down, Scotty.
Oh, well, you know, back then, death.
Scotty's saying death. Greg, you think he got life or death?
I'm going to say life.
Greg says life in prison. Scotty says death.
Oh, man, I'm probably wrong again.
Scotty, you're right. You're going to tie it up. You and Greg are going to
yeah.
tie for that second place spot at 500 on August 11th, 1989. The jury recommended the death penalty.
That's what they did back then.
3 months later, on November 29th, Judge McCartan formally sentenced Kraft to death, saying this, quote, to have something like this take place in our society. I think I've sent 8 or 9 individuals to their death in my courtroom before. I can take all of those aggravating circumstances in those other cases, and they don't match Mr. Kraft's record. I just can't comment. If anyone ever deserved the death penalty, he's got it coming, end quote. So, good shit. Thanks, Judge Donald. The sentence was upheld by the California Supreme Court on the first appeal, August 11th, 2000. Kraft remains on death row at the San Quentin State Prison. He continues to deny guilt of any of the homicides, both convicted and suspected. There is also circumstantial evidence that Kraft did indeed have an accomplice during the last few months of his murders, including ex-boyfriend who did eventually die from AIDS, Jeff Graves. So that's it, guys. That is the story of Randy Stephen Kraft. Pretty intense, I'm glad I got to bring you guys here to let you know about the 67 young men that were murdered by this piece of fuck.
Yeah,
Wow.
he liked it. He liked a lot of Marines.
Yes, a high percentage of what he took out was a Marine. So that's pretty much it.
Joined the military. It's interesting what his thoughts were on that. Like,
exactly.
I just want to go there and do that.
Right. And I wonder if like the Marines thing was like an old Air Force rivalry kind of that sat back. Well, I was in the Air Force, so what are you, a Marine? Or it sounds like really that he just lived close to a Marine base, and that made it convenient. Any thoughts on that, Greg?
Military base in Southern California.
No way, shall say. So Jordan's not here, but he does take down the victory. 1,250 points today to the double 500s. Again, it doesn't matter. Congratulations for nothing. You didn't win shit. So is there anything else you'd like to put out there, Scotty, before we end this thing?
He deserves a death penalty.
All right. Well, he's still alive. We don't really kill people in California anymore, unfortunately. But, if anybody's listening in San Quentin,
Manson.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Producer Greg?
That was it.
That was it.
We
All right.
sentenced Charles Manson to death and let Mother Nature do it.
Yeah, I guess that's technically then anybody who gets a life sentence has been sentenced to death. That's the California way. So if you've got nothing to add, Scotty, thank you very much for coming out. Greg, thanks for staying with me here late as always. And thank you guys all for listening to episode 28 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Okay, guys, that was episode 28, and thank you again for coming by and listening. Thank you again for telling a friend. We do appreciate that. So, Robert Kraft was pretty much mind-blowingly fucked up, and I'm glad that we're past this episode. I don't think it's going to get any better from here, but it shouldn't get any worse. If you guys have any suggestions for future episodes, please reach out to me. If you saw something you heard something in this episode that was incorrect, or you feel like you have something to add to it, reach out to me, you guys. I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say, and I'm very interested in doing episodes that you guys want to hear. Ask Michelle, she'll tell you. So if you guys want to reach out, do it on Facebook, super easy, Serial Chillers Podcast. Instagram is @Serial Chillers Podcast. Twitter @Chillers Podcast. The email address is serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the phone number 1-805-666-2513. And also, the merch store is up and running. T-shirts, there are some accessories, coffee mugs, hoodies, I believe some tanks for ladies. That's serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. If anybody's having trouble with that, please let me know. It is a drop ship, so it is going to ship from another location. We just gave them the designs, and they're handling the hard work. So any problems with them, please reach out to me, and I will help you solve that problem. And lastly, of course, serialchillerspodcast.com. And if you guys could, or you would, for as little as $1 a month, you can fully support the show. That is patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. Anything you give is greatly appreciated. Thank you to those who have given, and thank you to those who are thinking about giving. And the research for today's episode all came from, again, a Radford University timeline put together by Julian Sessmans, Heather Hash, and Jessica Hempfling. We used Murderpedia and just about every article on it this time. A huge breakdown once more by crimelibrary.org, Wikipedia, and the documentary Killers, the Scorecard Killer. All music in this episode today was by myself or producer Greg. Thank you guys all so much for listening. Again, any ideas, throw them out there. Charles Manson is dead. Fuck him anyway. And remember, don't talk to strangers. Hey guys, Jesse here with one last reminder for anyone who's still listening. We are going to be taking a holiday break after episode 30. Episode 30 will air December 8th as normal, and I will return with episode 31 on January 12th. Just need to take a little break, be with the family. Unfortunately, my day job is in retail, so this is the busiest time of year for me outside of the show as well. So thank you guys so much for your patience. Thank you guys for allowing me to take a little break. I promise to come back with the fire. Thank you guys so much for listening, and can't wait for what's coming up.